Hello, my name is Benny Tritsch. I'm a technical evangelist for ControlUp, located in the Rhine-Main area near Frankfurt in Germany. In my session today, you will learn how IGEL and ControlUp are better together. At the beginning, let me give you a very short intro by PowerPoint, followed by some demos. ControlUp collects telemetry data from EUC environments, virtualization platforms, desktop hosts, and client devices. As you can see, we're supporting all major players in the end-user computing and cloud market. The data collected by ControlUp is used for monitoring, analytics, and remediation. Real-time visibility of telemetry data, quickly responding on status changes, and analyzing historical data are the cornerstones of the ControlUp product. Here are some screenshots to give you a better idea of what you can do with ControlUp. Here's the real-time console. You see it in action in a minute or so. Collecting data is only the beginning. Things are getting more interesting when using the data for management. Comparing real-time data sets provides powerful mechanisms for optimizing infrastructure settings. The ControlUp product comes with hundreds of built-in script-based actions developed by community experts. Triggers can be used to automate system management. Now let me switch to the demo environment and show you some of these elements in action, all with focus on IGEL devices. Here is the real-time console showing all machines in one of our demo environments. Please note that there's a 5-second refresh rate of all data points. Now let me focus on the IGEL devices in this environment. We collect the data through an SSH connection. Now you can see the IGEL operating system version. You can also see the classic metrics, such as the hardware statistics, uptime, CPU, memory utilization, network, and so on. When I scroll to the right, you can see that there's even more. But we can go beyond the simple visualization of real-time data. When I do a single left click on one of the device names, I can see the top 5 list of recommended actions. But when I do a right click on it, I can see the full list of management actions that are available for this IGEL device. What I can do now is select all devices, right-click recommended actions, and choose List Assigned Profiles. In our demo environment, we have distributed different profile configurations to different devices to highlight how we can do grouping. So we can see that these 3 devices have the same profile configuration, while this one has an additional profile for shadowing. So by clicking between those groups, we can easily see the differences in profile configurations. This allows us to explain inconsistencies in user experience between your devices. This is a quick way of seeing if there are any differences. The next cool thing I want to show is the shadowing feature. Let me get there on the IGEL 2 device. VNC Viewer is a prerequisite for this feature to work. Then I click OK and boom, you see the shadowed IGEL desktop. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Let's open a remote session in the background for later and bring the real-time console to the foreground again. Now I want to find out about the machine details. Again, I group them and select Get Machine Details. We won't see any groups of similar machines as some of the fields are unique, so there's always a difference between machines. But still, you can quickly look at machine details of your devices, scroll through, and export the results into a report. You can export to an Excel file, and now we can look at all the different results. Here we go. Okay, let's go back to the shadowed IGEL device, now connected to a Citrix session. What I want to do now is open a YouTube video in the Citrix session and see what effect this has on my IGEL device. Okay, so let me find the longest YouTube video and start it. Good. Now the video is running. Let's take a look at the data of the IGEL 2 device with the Citrix session, which produces a higher CPU load since the video was launched. On double click on the device name, we can do a drill down. We can actually see the WFICA process that generates the load. On the IGEL device, we have the real-time visibility on the process level now, and we're able to see how the endpoint is performing. Technically, it's possible to get the load to 100%, which is something we'll be looking at in a moment. Let's dig into some more management capabilities. First of all, I want to make sure that we're still shadowing the right IGEL device. Okay. When I go back to the recommended actions and click Update Configurations from UMS, and we go back to the shadowed session, you'll see the update dialog pop up. Bang! And our script action tells us it was successful. At this point, I want to switch to ControlUp Insights, which is the reporting module used for big data analytics. In Insights, I want to go back in time to analyze an interesting IGEL incident. Here are some interesting historical statistics about the IGEL 2 device you know from the previous demo. We can see a significant CPU spike, and when I click on it, I get a list of the processes. In this case, it's all systemd processes, so probably something like a scheduled task was the root cause for the spike. Other things we can see here are RAM utilization, I/O utilization, and network utilization, which gives us a nice overview. But now I want to overlay the data of the IGEL 2 device with the data of another IGEL device for comparison. By highlighting the data sets, we can easily identify the source. And we can see that the IGEL 1 device shows an interesting anomaly. On IGEL 1, the CPU capped out at 100% for a short period of time. Again, if we click on the data, we can see the processes contributing to the load, and this time it's a Citrix process at the top. So either this was an anomaly, or more likely, this hardware is just underpowered for what the user was trying to do. In this particular situation, it was the endpoint that was maxed out and not the Citrix infrastructure or the network. But we can look at similar data from the perspective of a Citrix session. So let's go back to the real-time console for that. The question is if we can correlate the user session on the IGEL device to the Citrix session. And the answer is yes. First, we get the name of the device, which is IGEL 02, and then we focus back on the entire infrastructure. Now we go to sessions and just type this client name. The result is the Citrix session running on this IGEL device. In this context, I can click on the client name, and from here, I can run recommended actions. If I click on Get Machine Details, we can look at the familiar details of this particular client device. When searching for another Citrix session that I know is connected to a physical IGEL device, I can find out about the attached assets, which is kind of cool. As you can see, this gives us valuable information about the devices plugged into the physical IGEL endpoint. Basically, this is what we can do with the IGEL devices. So obviously, we can look at the CPU level, but we can also look at the logical disk level, which may be interesting sometimes. Another exciting point is that if customers do a rollout of a new firmware, they can just drag the operating system column here, which groups all operating systems and allows us to see the status of the devices. Simply because it's all real-time data as of the last 5 seconds, you can be confident that you're seeing the right status here. Here's one more thing. What if your IGEL clients are performing well, but remote desktop users are still complaining about degraded user experience every once in a while? In such cases, ControlUp ScoutBees helps us to identify bottlenecks in remoting environments. ScoutBees measures the performance of synthetic user logons we call scouts. We are using the term Hive for the location from where such a synthetic logon is initiated. Now let me go to the ScoutBees homepage and refresh it real quick. And then we can scroll down and see that there are 6 scouts in total. I mean, scouts means, if we zoom in here, that we have one scout that connects to a target machine through a gateway and through a cloud hive. So this is the test logic that is hosted in the cloud, and we are connecting with a test user. Over here, we have a custom hive. So it's not cloud-based. It's created by a customer, and but the same thing happens here. So we connect to a target machine, go through a gateway, and we use a logon user. So if we look at the overview, we can go to the individual history data for each of the scouts and see what was going on over the last 24 hours. We can change that and can check it out over the last 12 hours, so higher granularity. So we see the changes in some of the scouts. So if we mouse over here, we can see exactly which one it is. And we can also look at a longer time period, what was going on here. Let me just use this PowerPoint slide to explain the different types of ScoutBees hives in a simple way. A cloud hive managed by ControlUp provides test resources from the outside of the corporate network. A custom Hive can be installed on premises and provides test resources within the corporate network. Now let's check out the details of one of the scouts. We just click Edit here. So we see all the configuration details. We see the gateway type, and we see the address of the gateway, the URL, the username and password, and we can configure one-time password logon, and we also configure the resource, so the target machine where we connect to, and we configure the time period in which the user connects. So you can select between 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and 60 minutes. And you give the scout a name. Okay, this is an existing scout. What does it look like if we want to create a new scout? So we click the Create Scout button, and here we can select what kind of scout we want to configure. If we want to configure a Cloud Hive scout, so we can select the Hive in the cloud, or if we want to select a custom Hive, then we can do that as well. So this is a Hive that we created ourselves, and we can run the scouts from there. Here in our test environment, we have 5 custom Hives. 3 of them are active, are online in this moment in London, in Boston, and another one here. I don't know where it's located, but this is how we are able to configure a new scout. So if we said here, yes, we want to move forward, we want to go there, we select Citrix or we select VMware. So we have 2 different options for each of the EUC product vendors. Kind of easy to configure. Okay, let's stop it here, and we're going to leave here and go back to the home page. Now let's take a look at the results of a Scout test run. So when we go down here, we see the overview of the logon time, how long it took until the user was authenticated, how long it took to connect, and how long it took until the session was ready to go. So this is the time that we can read here, but we can look into the details. We just click here and we open a page that shows us all individual test connections, and we see if it succeeded or not. We can always look what it looked like after a while. And if we go through here, we will see the same screenshot again and again, which makes sure that everything is repeatedly done in the same way. So we see that the session is ready after 38 seconds, 44 seconds, 41 seconds, and so on and so forth. Now, if we click on one of those, we can see the details. So we can see how long it took to authenticate, the resource enumeration, the ICA download, because here we're talking about a connection to a Citrix CentDesktop infrastructure. So how long it took to connect to the session, the initialization of the session, and then how long it took until the session was ready for the user to work interactively. So we see all the little details. What was the target server? What was the latency on the network? The total logon duration, the name of the broker, round trip time, and we see on the other side the server, again, the delivery group, if there was an update pending, the machine catalog, and if the machine was allocated randomly or if it connected to one specific machine. Now, this is not so interesting to look at that one, at that scout, because it has, a success rate of 99.3%. So let's scroll down here and see one that was not so successful, only 70%. So let's take a look at this one here. So we see that some of the logons failed. Number one is, let's check out where it failed and what happened. So we see that the authentication worked right, but then obviously it was not able to download the ICA file after it did a resource enumeration. So this is the root cause for the error. And this is why the logon was not successful. So we see the failure here. If we go to another one that was successful, yes, everything worked as expected. So this is what we want to see if the target infrastructure fails. We want to be able to track down the root cause as much as we can. So this is why we can check out which columns are available so that we can check out more details. And you see that we can see failure reasons. So we can see here cannot download ICA file. That is a very simple way to troubleshoot the root cause. And so let's remove that again and see what it looks like if it's successful. Yes, it just opens calculator. It doesn't do something fancy. It just opens calculator and we see the results here if it worked or if it didn't. So let's go back to the home page and finish up here. Okay, let's wrap up the session. Over the last 20 minutes, you have learned how ControlUp can be beneficial for IGEL customers. You have seen real-time data collected from IGEL devices visualized in the ControlUp console. You have seen scripted actions initiated from the ControlUp console and used to manage IGEL devices and remote sessions. You've seen ControlUp Insights analyzing historical IGEL performance data. You have seen how ScoutBees helps IGEL customers to measure the performance of synthetic user logons. I want to encourage you to go to the ControlUp or ScoutBees website if you want to start a free trial. Before we conclude, here's a very special action for you. The first 10 attendees who sent me an email with the subject ScoutBees and the postal address will receive a nice gift. We have ScoutBees honey and we will get it delivered to you. Just send your email to benny.rich@controlup.com. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed my session. Thank you so much for attending and goodbye.